tips from the top. We started with generating business, how to get business. This is part 2. You got my video last week. It was about 13 minutes. Most of these are going to be 5 or 10 minutes, but when I do it, it's 10 or 15 minutes. But we're starting with the most critical thing of generating business out there. Now, as I mentioned last week, the most important thing if you want to generate more business is you have to do something. You have to have a plan. Here is my friend Lee Brown, 1-minute video. My friend Lee Brown, who lives in North Carolina, does over $50 million a year in sales. She will be here at the with the board, I think September 27th or sometime, but she will be here as our featured speaker person or something. But here's Lee Brown.
There's also a big question that I receive in my role with my broker hat on. I have agents who ask me, Lee, why do you sell so many houses? And there's a very important magical secret, so lean in, listen. I work every single day. I know this sounds really magical, but I go to work every day. I talk to people every day. I pick up the telephone and call people every day. Y'all, this is not rocket science. But why do we as agents hide from the people who love us? They want to buy and sell houses from us, and they list their houses with us, and then we abandon them. We would not abandon a stray puppy if we picked it up off the street. So don't abandon your sellers, and don't abandon your buyers after they buy their house. They're still full of love, and now they feel a little broken up with because they don't hear from you every day. Call them. The telephone is not a scary thing. Use it and work every day. You will sell houses.
So the bottom line is you have to do something. I mentioned that last week. And throughout the United States, to generate business, 90% of all agents uses one of 5 things to generate business. There's no secrets. You don't have to search. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to, well, what should I do? There's only about 5 things. Now, I'm leaving out technology. Brian Avera doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to ask him next week to do tips from the top. Just summarizing your options on lead generation, internet leads, okay, through technology. You have to pay for them. We know 90% of them, most people don't want to pay for them. 90% of those leads are junk. The ones you do get, you have to normally incubate them. It may take you a year before they buy them. You got to stay with them that time. A lot of people don't want to do that. But lead generation through the internet is another source, and I'll have Brian discuss that next week. But basically, there's 5 things that every realtor in the United States does to generate business. You just have to decide which you want to do. Number 1, and I know you're going to feel like, when are you going to quit preaching about sin? And the preacher says, when you quit sinning. But number 1 is sphere of influence. The majority of you do not manage your sphere of influence. Now, again, as I said last week, 3 groups in our company. Newer group coming up. Most of them are working on their sphere of influence. Chastity, you're doing a fantastic job working with them, teaching them, going through this stuff. We have that group that's doing fine. We have that group of you that are very comfortable with what you do. I don't want you doubling your production or increasing your production if it affects or worsens or jeopardizes your lifestyle with your family. Your family comes first. So many of you, the largest group, you're very content with what you're doing and the money you're making and fitting into your lifestyle. So don't worry about doing anything more for that group. This is for people who want to generate more business, double their business, what to do. The number 1 most important thing, this is a fact throughout the United States, agreed by every national trainer everywhere, is your sphere of influence. For the majority of realtors, when they close a transaction, it's the end, it's over, it's done, they got their money, they move on to the next deal. For those that manage your sphere of influence, they know when they close a transaction, that is the beginning, that they're going to get 3 or 4 more deals now from that group. I did. When I was the number 1 realtor in Northeast Louisiana in the early 90s, I had a sphere of influence. You know, I'm not smart enough to manage it, but I had a lady that managed that for me. I had them in A, B, C, and D categories, but communicated with them constantly. And after a few years, I didn't have to worry about generating new business because I had this business. They were mine. I owned them. And they would call me. Their families would call me. And I lived off that for so many years. But your sphere of influence, managing it, is the number one thing. You close a transaction, you fail to communicate with them, they forget you, they move on, somebody else comes up, starts farming, picks them up, and now they've got them, you've lost them. Think about your very first deal, or one of your early deals. Just think back a few years, those that have been in it a while, people you sold to, you have no idea where they're at, what they're doing. They've probably forgotten your name, they don't even know if you're in business or not yet. Ann Cook, if you would allow me to, when I had my boot camp, and I discussed all these things in my boot camp, about 4 hours in detail with top videos from national trainers on each of these 5 subjects. But Ann Cook, a very experienced realtor who joined us some years back, we had many of our existing agents come to my boot camp, and Ann, we were talking about how you could go back to your business. You were a little kind of like, well, what do I say? You know, I haven't seen them in X number of years. And you remember when you sent a card to that person? You sent a card to that person, and they came back, and if I remember, they were in the process of moving somewhere and having to sell their house. And not that they had forgotten you, but they just didn't know where, how, what. And from the card, you got the listing, you sold it, and I still have that check, $16,750 GCI check that you got from that, because you communicated with them. So keeping up with people, communicating with them, you're building that business. That business is yours. If you close it and you don't communicate with them, you don't keep up with them, then you're saying, I appreciate the one deal, move on to somebody else now, okay? You have lost a minimum 50% of your business by not maintaining your sphere of influence. Now, what do? It's 3 steps. Managing your sphere of influence is not only the easiest thing, it's the cheapest thing to do. A couple hours, you can get it going. Hire your daughter, your son, your wife, your husband, your ex, whoever. Hire a student for 2 or 3 hours to come in to do this for you if you need to. Brian Avera and Sabrina are both prepared to meet with you at a scheduled time and discuss the software. Excel, I think, is kind of the suggested database to put it in. Now, you put it in Paragon, you can put it in Zap, you can put it in a variety of things, but the goal is to put minimum name, phone number, address, email address in there. I put their birthdays, the kids' birthdays, I put the anniversary date of the closing, I put everything in there. But that's what you got to have. Step number 1 is to make a list, minimum 100. You got to start with 100 people. For every single person you put on that database, one of my top national trainers, Zan Monroe, guarantees you for every single person in that sphere of influence, you're guaranteed $1,000 a year income. Now he's based it on a $250 average sales price. Average is about $180, $190. So let's just say $650. Okay. For every person you put in there, you're gonna make $1,000 a year. Put 100 people in there, you're gonna make $65,000 a year. Put 200 people in there, you're gonna make $130,000 a year. But start with a minimum of 100. Who do you put in there? Anybody that has enough confidence in you that if they were to buy or sell a house, would use you, would refer you. Yes, people you sold to before, people you have shown to and worked with, and they've decided, we appreciate everything you've done, but we've decided to rent. I've given story after story in my boot camp of different scenarios where I met people for 15, 20 minutes, and they became one of my top referral people in my sphere of influence. But number 1, make a list of everybody. Number 2, put them in a database. And number 3, communicate with them. Okay? First one can simply be an email out saying, hey, just want everybody to know I'm in real estate now with Coldwell Banker Group 1 Realty. If you have any questions on buying or selling a home, please give me a call. I'll be glad to help you. If you've been in business for a while, just say, hey, just trying to keep up with you. As you know, I'm in real estate. Just, have any questions, let me know. It doesn't make a difference what you say. Just communicate with them, and all of a sudden they think, oh, yeah. So, sphere of influence, number one, the single most important thing to build your business long term. If you do that, you will not be worried 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road where your business is coming from. It will continue to come. Number two, I'm going to say the hour of power, 1 hour a week. I think I mentioned this last week. Top agents throughout the country do this every day. They dedicate every day, nothing else, 1 hour of making phone calls. If you did 1 hour a week, dedicate 1 hour a week, I don't care what time it is. They say there's better times. Some people do it early in the morning, some people do it after 5. I don't care when you do it. 1 hour a week, set aside. Don't have the TV, don't be answering your phone, don't be texting, don't be playing with the kids. 1 hour a week, set aside and say, I'm going to make phone calls for 1 hour. Who do you call? Makes no difference. No difference. Call your family, call your friends, call your previous clients. Yes, for some owners expires if you want, but call people and simply say, hey, Bill, I just thought I'd say hello. I haven't talked to you in a while, and hey, hope everything's going okay. I'm still in real estate, so if you have any questions at all, just let me know. But the hour of power, you won't do that more than twice and not have somebody say, gee, it just now occurred to me that my next door neighbor is thinking about selling their house. I'm going to pass it on to you. Okay? So number two is your hour of power, the single most dynamic thing that you can do to generate business. Number three, open houses. Where else can you go for basically free? Now you can bring stuff or whatever, where buyers are coming to you. Give you great stories of agents in our company that started their business, and y'all know who you are, that started your business, built it. Where else can you go for 2 hours and buyers are coming to you? Now what you do in an open house makes a difference. I made a tremendous living off of open houses because of what I did, and I discussed that in my boot camp. But simply when they get through and they leave, give them your card stapled to a piece of paper with active homes in the market and in that neighborhood, and just hand it to them and say, hey, here's some other properties out there you might want to drive by and look at and everything. And they say, oh, wow, okay, I thought you were trying to sell this house. Well, we are, but we know not everybody wants this house. And here's my card. Feel free to call me. I'll be glad to email you. I'm not going to bug you, bother you, but I'll email you any information you need, full pages on any of these things. So open houses, number three. Number four, for sale by owners. 85% of all for sale by owners end up listing. They think they're going to save the commission, and we have our strategy on that. But they think they're going to save the commission, and then they find out they got to take off every day from work to go make an appointment, to go show the house, and the people don't show up, and then they realize they don't know anything about closing costs, they don't know anything who pays this, who pays that, contract issues, all that mess, and 85% end up listing it. So they're going to list. So open houses for sale owners are number four. Go after open houses for sale owners, okay? And then number five is expired listings. Expired listings are a home run, absolutely home run. You got people that want to sell their house. It hadn't sold during the normal time of the existing agent, and 9 times out of 10, the existing agent probably hasn't done everything that they have promised them they could do. I can think of a number of agents in Northeast Louisiana that if I wanted to get back into it, man, I'd go behind each one of these people, people that talk a good talk and don't walk the walk. And you can promise them the world, but all of a sudden now they can't get a hold of you. They don't hear from you. You don't keep up with them, whatever. They're very disillusioned. And usually on an expired listing, you can pull the comp, the listing, and you can maybe see. Maybe there's one picture, a horrible picture, that the seller hadn't even seen. The picture may be bad, but no remarks, no information, and maybe a really, really, really low commission that they didn't even know was being offered to them. And you can fix those things. So call the expired listings and say, Mr. and Ms. Smith, I'm so-and-so, Co-Banker Group One Realty. I noticed your listing had expired. 50% of them are going to say, what? It's expired? It's not ever? Nope, it's expired, because their agent hadn't called them and told them. And I understand you may be extending it with your agent, but I would be honored to interview and tell you what I would do and Coldwell Banker would do if you elected to list with me. And then I'll leave you alone. You make the decision if you want to extend or not. expired listings are a great source. Those are the 5 main things that every agent in the United States does. 90% of all business comes from one of these sources. Then you have technology. Then you have that 5% of odds and ends out there. But it's not a mystery. You have to decide which of these things that you want to do. The very first thing I would do is start a sphere of influence. You can let somebody else manage it. Just when you close something or you think of somebody, I would be driving down the road and, I forgot the bill. And I would call my gal that was handling that for me and say, hey, add this person to my sphere of influence. And then we'd communicate with them. How often? I did it every 3 months. Every 3 months I would send an email, a card, something, and then on the anniversary date of the closing, if I closed it, and then at Christmas, my A's got something, my B's got something, my C's got something. So there's 5 things. You make the decision which you want to do. If you want to get more business, we would be glad to sit down with you on any of these things and help you generate more business. Next week, Brian Avera, he didn't know this yet, so don't tell him, but he's going to discuss with you, much shorter than me, of how to generate business from internet leads, the cost, the options, and then we have some great things after that with Paula, 5-10 minutes, normally good tips. Have a great day.